The rain was coming down so hard that most people hurried past the old man without even looking at him. But when a poor black waitress named Maya saw him struggling to walk along the flooded sidewalk, she ran out of the restaurant without thinking about the consequences. She had no idea that the old stranger she was about to help would return the very next morning and become the only person who could save her job. Maya Carter was 27 years old and worked as a waitress at a small family restaurant called Riverside Grill. She lived in a tiny apartment with her 8-year-old daughter, Lily, and every dollar she earned already had a purpose. Rent, groceries, electricity, school supplies, and Lily's medicine seemed to consume her paycheck before it even reached her hands. Maya had learned to survive without complaining. She smiled at customers even when her feet hurt, apologized when the kitchen was late, and worked extra shifts whenever someone called in sick. She knew losing her job would not simply mean losing a paycheck. It would mean losing the little stability she had fought so hard to build for her daughter. That evening, the restaurant was unusually busy. Outside, dark clouds had covered the city, and rain hammered against the windows. Maya was carrying a tray of hot coffee when she noticed an elderly black man standing alone across the street. He appeared to be in his 70s, wearing an old gray coat that was completely soaked. One hand held a worn wooden cane while the other pressed against a brick wall for support. Cars rushed through the rain, splashing water onto the sidewalk, while people hurried past him as if he were invisible. Maya watched him take one painful step after another, clearly struggling to reach the bus stop. She knew she was supposed to stay inside. Her manager had already warned the staff that the dinner rush was too busy for anyone to leave their station. But something inside Maya refused to let her ignore him. She placed the tray down, grabbed an umbrella, and ran into the rain. She crossed the street and gently offered the old man her umbrella. When he tried to explain that he could manage, Maya noticed his trembling legs and soaked shoes. She supported his arm and slowly helped him toward the covered entrance of a nearby pharmacy. The rain soaked Maya's uniform, her hair, and her shoes, but she never complained. She stayed beside him until he was safely seated. The old man looked at her with tired but grateful eyes. Maya noticed that he was shivering, so she took off her restaurant jacket and placed it around his shoulders. She knew her manager might be furious, but at that moment, an elderly man struggling alone in the rain mattered more than a warning. Before leaving, Maya made sure he had his phone, wallet, and bus card. She even called a taxi for him because the buses had stopped running properly due to the storm. The old man tried to give her money, but Maya gently refused. She simply told him that someone should help when they see another person struggling. Then she hurried back toward the restaurant, completely unaware that someone had been watching everything from inside. If you believe kindness, compassion, and second chances can change someone's life, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to spread kindness. Your support helps stories like this reach people who may need a little reminder that good hearts still exist. When Maya returned to Riverside Grill, her manager, Victor, was waiting near the kitchen. He was furious. Maya tried to explain what happened, but Victor only pointed at her soaked uniform and told her that she had abandoned her station during the busiest hour of the night. Maya apologized repeatedly, promising to stay late and make up for it. But Victor had already decided that enough was enough. He told her that one more mistake could cost her the job. Maya worked the rest of the night with tears silently gathering in her eyes. She thought about Lily waiting at home and the rent notice sitting on their kitchen table. She imagined having to tell her daughter that they might have to move again. For Maya, losing her job was not an abstract fear. It was the difference between keeping a roof over their heads and starting over from nothing. The next morning, Maya arrived early, exhausted but determined. She had barely stepped through the restaurant door when she saw Victor standing beside a sharply dressed elderly man. Maya froze. Her heart dropped when she recognized him. It was the old man from the rain. Victor looked nervous. The old man was no longer wearing the soaked gray coat. He stood straight in an expensive dark suit, holding the same wooden cane Maya had seen the night before. Victor introduced him as Arthur Bennett, the founder and majority owner of the restaurant group that owned Riverside Grill. Maya suddenly realized that the small restaurant where she worked was only one location in a much larger company. Arthur looked at Maya for a long moment before quietly asking Victor why the woman who had helped him in the rain was being fired. Victor tried to explain that Maya had abandoned her station and violated workplace rules. Arthur listened carefully, then asked whether Victor knew why she had left. Victor admitted that she had gone outside to help an elderly man who was struggling in the storm. Arthur then revealed something that left everyone speechless. He had intentionally traveled to that neighborhood the previous evening because he wanted to visit several of his restaurants without announcing himself. He wanted to see how customers were treated and how employees behaved when they believed no important person was watching. But what he witnessed was not what he expected. While dozens of people ignored him, a waitress earning barely enough to support her child had risked her job to help a stranger. Arthur explained that he had spent decades building his company around the belief that a business was only as good as the people inside it. Yet somewhere along the way, some managers had forgotten that employees were human beings too. He told Victor that rules mattered, but compassion mattered as well. A company could replace a waitress, but it could never manufacture genuine kindness. Maya expected Arthur to simply save her job. Instead, he did something far more meaningful. He asked her what she needed to feel secure. Maya hesitated before admitting that she wanted a stable schedule so she could care for Lily and enough hours to keep up with their expenses. Arthur listened without judgment. He offered Maya a permanent position with better pay, guaranteed hours, and a chance to train for a supervisor role if she wanted it. Maya could barely believe what she was hearing. She had gone to work expecting to lose everything, and instead, the simple act of helping a stranger had opened a door she never knew existed. But Arthur was not finished. He quietly told Victor that he wanted every manager in the company reminded that kindness should never be treated as weakness. He also established a small employee emergency fund, explaining that no worker should have to choose between helping someone in need and protecting their own family from financial disaster. Months later, Maya was still working at Riverside Grill, but her life looked completely different. She had moved into a safer apartment, Lily had a proper study desk, and Maya had begun training for management. Yet she never forgot the old man in the rain. Every time a storm came, she looked outside the restaurant windows and remembered that night. One rainy afternoon, Maya saw an elderly customer struggling to carry a bag toward the door. Without hesitation, she walked over and helped him. She did not do it because she expected anyone to notice. She did it because she remembered what it felt like to be seen when everyone else had walked past. Before we reach the final moment, comment ***, kindness always comes back ***, if you believe one small act of compassion can change someone's life. Years later, Arthur retired from the company and Maya eventually became the manager of the very restaurant where she had once feared losing her job. On the wall behind her desk hung a simple photograph of a rainy street, an umbrella, and two people walking together. It reminded her that the most important opportunities in life do not always arrive as money, promotions, or perfect timing. Sometimes they arrive disguised as an old man standing alone in the rain. Maya had thought she was saving a stranger that night. In reality, she had unknowingly helped save her own future. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all, kindness does not always return immediately, and it does not always come from the person you help. But somewhere, somehow, the good you put into the world has a way of finding its way back. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in kindness, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to ***, spread kindness ***. Because sometimes, one small act of humanity is enough to change two lives forever.